Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. I hope that you're doing well. When it comes to niche fragrances, there are a lot of things to love about them. Whether we're talking about how unique they can come across sometimes, the artistry behind that, the quality of the fragrances, a lot of times the performance, like I said, there's a lot to love. But one thing that some people have a hard time getting their head around when it comes to niche fragrances, the price. Yeah, everything is getting more and more and more expensive, including designer fragrances. And so when you come to niche fragrances, for a lot of people, it's just a little far, you know, it's a little bit out of reach when you're looking at that price tag and it goes up to $300, $400, $500. So with that in mind, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys here today 10 very popular and expensive niche fragrances that a lot of guys out there love, and then more affordable alternatives to those fragrances. A lot of times these alternatives are like 10% the cost of the real deal. So if you love that smell, but you can't afford it, I'm gonna give you at least one, a lot of times two alternatives to each one of these expensive fragrances in today's video. All of the ones that I talk about here today will be linked in the description below. So if you're intrigued by any of the ones I talk about, you can find them down there. All right, let's get things kicked off with alternatives to Ganymede. Now this is a fragrance that I personally love. I really like this one. The first time I smelled it, it blew me away. It's got a great minerality to it. So it almost smells like water seeping through slate. It has a very fresh, almost fuzzy feel to it when you smell it. And then it has a clean leather in there as well. Really nice, extremely versatile, good performance. And this is one that for a moment in time there was just a hype monster, like everybody wanted it, everybody was talking about it. So a really popular one. And I'm gonna give you a couple alternatives to this one. The first one is this is Celestial from Emir, which is Paris Corner. The other alternative is from Lattafa, and it is this one, Massa. So both of these have a presentation that some people might find tacky. And actually what's interesting about this one, Celestial, is it looks like it'd be really heavy and the cap would be very heavy, but it's really not. Now both of these fragrances nail down that minerality that Ganymede has, and they do it in a very convincing way, especially when you look at the price tag here compared to the original. Now, one of the differences between these two is going to be that Massa, this one here from Lattafa, has a little bit more of a fruity sweetness off the top as compared to Celestial over here. So if you wanted to go more on the minerality side of things, which some people would find closer to the original, then you would want this one, Celestial. But if you want something that has a little more sweetness, a little more fruit off the top, that's going to maybe to some people balance out that minerality a little bit, then you would want this one. Price-wise, this one, Massa, is a little bit more expensive at discounters. This is gonna be mid-30s, sometimes a little bit higher. This one is going to be around 28 or so. So just overall, as far as bang for your buck goes, at this point, I would say Celestial is gonna be the better bet for more people. But again, if you want a little bit of a twist to your Ganymede alternative, you can check this one out. After that, let's talk alternatives to Creed Aventus. Now, with Aventus, there are insane numbers of alternatives out there. I'm gonna give you a couple, and then I'm gonna rattle off a few other ones that you can check out as well, but there are a bunch more that I'm not gonna be able to cover here because frankly, I could probably do like a top 25 Aventus alternatives list. There are a lot of them. Now, if for some reason you're unaware of Creed Aventus, it is the most popular men's niche fragrance of all time. Really well known for having just extreme versatility. You can wear it daytime, nighttime, any season, does not matter, any situation, does not matter. Big compliment puller as well. In the opening, you get a lot of pineapple, bergamot, as well. As it dries down, you get birch, giving it a little bit of a smoky aspect. Those are really gonna be the two main things that people key in on when they talk about Aventus. But then there are a lot of other supporting notes there that you pick up as well. Black currant, for example, vanilla, just a lot going on there. So a couple alternatives. The first one, Mont Blanc, Explorer, and the second one, of course, Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf. Now, like I said, there are a bunch of Aventus alternatives out there other than these. I'm sure you know that, but I'm just reiterating that here. L'Aventure from Al Haramain is a really well-known one, and there are even flankers off L'Aventure and Club de Nuit Intense Man that give you different takes on Aventus. So for example, you could get Club de Nuit Intense Man limited edition, which does smell like Aventus, just like this one does, but it comes across in a little bit of a different way. Afnan has Supremacy Not Only Intense, which smells like Aventus, also kind of like Hassavat from Nishane, which which also kind of smells like Aventus. Yeah, there's a lot out there, okay? I'm gonna have to just stop talking about that, or else this is gonna be just going on and on and on. Insurrection 2 Pure, that's another one from Ray and Tradition, but like I said, there's a lot of Aventus out there. So Explorer, let's talk about this. This one is gonna run you $40-ish. Sometimes you could find it for a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, but it's gonna be around that price range right now, which is actually up a little bit from where it used to be. Explorer, of course, from Montblanc, not from a straight up clone house, unlike the ones we've talked about so far. This does have an Aventus aspect to it, but it is done in more of a designer way. So the woodiness here is fresher, a little bit more modern. It doesn't have that smokiness. Has a nice fresh spiciness off the top, and the citrus here is gonna give you a little bit of that pineapple aspect that Aventus has, but not quite as much as the real deal. Still really well done, extremely versatile, big compliment puller, and absolutely worth owning in my opinion. Don't buy it at retail though, not at retail. You wanna save money, buy it at a discounter. This is one that definitely will make you feel better if you pay less for it. I mean, everything is like that, but this especially. Then we have Club de Nuit Intense Man. Now this is, I would say, pretty easily the most well-known Aventus clone or alternative. That's why I'm featuring it here today, although you probably already know about this one. So the knock on this fragrance has always been the opening. The opening is a good deal harsher than what you're gonna find in the real deal. It has more of a focus on lemon, so it can come across more astringent, more bitter, not as smooth, not as pleasant as the opening of the real deal. One of those deals where the first time maybe you're like, oh, and then you acquire the taste and you're like, oh, actually, I don't mind the opening to Club de Nuit Intense Man. I find that it builds character, and I quite enjoy it. Get a little monocle going, a little clone professor. That said, even though the opening can be a bit off-putting, as it dries down, really pleasant, especially in the air. Another one that is a big compliment puller, which is one of the reasons this is so popular. Huge performance, and again, in the air, as it dries down, it smells great. Even though a lot of people will hate on this. Believe that. Before we jump to the next fragrance, here are some savings codes, some discount codes that you can use should you shop at any of these websites featured here. A lot of these websites have clone fragrances, some are discounters, some have niche fragrances, really just runs the gamut. Next, we're gonna talk about alternatives to Tom Ford's Oud Wood, which I think, again, is an amazing fragrance. I love Oud Wood. The perfumer of Oud Wood, actually a good friend of mine, Richard Herpon, and I've got videos on the channel with me talking with him. Actually, a video on the Extra channel, Extra Gents, where I talked to him about the creation of Oud Wood, which, by the way, my Extra channel, Extra Gents, check that out too. I've got a lot of videos on there where I cover things I don't cover here, so you can just search that up on YouTube, it'll pull it right up. But yes, Oud Wood, really nice fragrance, extremely classy, sexy, sophisticated, and a great jumping off point into oud fragrances. Spicy, warm, just perfectly done. So here are two blatant copies of that fragrance. The first one, Woody Oud from Maison Alhambra. Yeah, take a gander at that. And then the second one from Fragrance World, Oud Wonder. Yeah, look at those. That's something. So again, these are blatant copies of Oud Wood, and they are not hiding it whatsoever. Another fragrance that's a good alternative is Versace's Oud Noir. Oud Noir, it smells a bit like Oud Wood when you first spray it on. As it dries down, it kind of does its own thing. That being said, you would wear it in much the same places that you would Oud Wood. And I think it's a great fragrance also on its own. So Versace Oud Noir also. So presentation-wise on these, again, it's very blatantly copying Tom Ford's Oud Wood. These are both 80 milliliters in size. Both of these are eau de parfum concentration. The fragrance on the inside of Oud Wonder, a little bit darker, whereas Woody Oud over here is clear. And while these are both quite close to Oud Wood, there are differences between these two. So this one, Woody Oud, actually has a little more of a focus on that oud aspect. So it's gonna give you a little bit more of an edge to it. It could come across to some people slightly more funky. It's not like a hardcore oud or anything like that, obviously, but it does have a little more bite to it. Whereas this one over here, this is sweeter, has more of a focus on that warm spiciness. So while Oud Wonder does have that oud note to it, like Oud Wood, so that's really the way you could think of these. They both do have that oud wood DNA in them, but Oud Wonder is gonna be a little easier going, a little sweeter, a little more spicy, and this is gonna have a little more oudy bite to it. Not quite as sweet, a little more focus on the wood. Both are really well done though, and both are much cheaper than oud wood. This one is about $25 to $27 at discounters. That's Woody Oud from Maison Alhambra. As of this video, Oud Wonder is on Amazon for about $18. So amazing value here. Now I'm not saying it's always gonna be that price. At other websites, I've seen it going for $25, $35, depending on where you shop, but really cheap as of this video. Up next is two alternatives to Ombre Nomad from Louis Vuitton. Now this is an extremely popular fragrance that has a focal point on oud, incense, and rose. There's also a bit of saffron and raspberry off the top, so it gives it this nice sweetness. It doesn't overwhelm you with the deeper, darker notes. It leads you in and is a really elegant scent with good performance, big pop for fall and winter time. And as you would expect from a fragrance coming from that house, it's pretty expensive too, yeah. How expensive, you might ask? $410 at full retail. So here are two alternatives to that fragrance. First up, from the Woods collection, Royal Night. Now this one is not cheap as far as cologne fragrances go. It's usually around 45 bucks or so. Might be able to find it for a little bit less, but even still, $45 compared to $410, yeah, that's a pretty big savings. The other alternative is this one, Jean Lo Ombre, and this is from Maison Alhambra. Now, one thing that I want to drive home right here, right now, about this fragrance and all of the other ones that I'm going to talk to you about here today. Do not overpay for any of these. They are supposed to be cheaper alternatives, okay? But sometimes fragrances will be popular and they'll sell out and you'll have scalpers, especially with Jean Lo fragrances. That has happened, which is why I'm talking about it here with this one, but again, for all of them. So what will happen is you'll have a fragrance like this, and you can find this when it's in stock at discounters for a good price, like 35 bucks or less. And it will be popular, and you'll have people that will buy up a bunch of bottles. And then when it sells out, they will list these on eBay for stupid prices. Now, admittedly, they're asking for these prices. I'm not saying that they're getting these prices, but they're asking for them, which means they're fishing, okay? Don't take the bait. I have seen this on eBay for like $250. That is insane. That's like a 10x markup where they're trying to just rip people off. So be aware of that. Any of these fragrances here that we talk about, if they're sold out at discounters and the only place you can see them is on eBay and they're going for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times the price that they went for at discounters, do not buy them. Do not do it, okay? Now, one other thing when it comes to this one, Jean Lo Ombre, depending on where you look, the name has changed on this one. So some places right now, it will still be this. It will be Ombre. They had to change the name because of obvious reasons. Brand was like, hey, what are you doing? We're gonna sue you. So now this one is also known as Noir. Be aware of that. Depending on where you look, this could be Ombre or it could be Noir. Wait a second. That's still way too close. But yeah, that's what they're doing. So as far as bang for your buck goes, this one is gonna be better than this one because actually some places, I know I said $35, but you can find this for about $25. So a really, really good deal, and the quality here, fantastic. The Jean Lo alternatives to Louis Vuitton fragrances are extremely well done. Royal Night is very, very good. The quality is quite nice on this as well. They both have magnetic caps, so that's a plus. But this one is going to be the pricier of the two. Like I said, this is around, like $45, $50, something like that. Both really well done, but again, I think for most people, this is probably gonna be the better bet. I would keep talking about those in more detail, but we're only 4 down. We got 6 to go. Next up is Bulgari Tiger. This is extremely wearable, very likable, tons of citrus in this fragrance, and it's done in an extremely appealing way. So not hard to like this at all. It's a great scent for spring and summertime. There are a bunch of alternatives to this fragrance. This is another one where you've got probably a solid dozen fragrances out there that are gonna get you pretty close at a much cheaper price. I'm gonna give you what I feel like is the best bang for your buck alternative, and then the most attention grabbing alternative. So those are gonna be Rubraca's Theorem, and then Tarothi Blue. This is from Afnan. So Rubbraca Theorem, this is about $20. Sometimes a couple bucks more, a couple bucks less, but about $20. And it comes very close to nailing Tiger at that price point. The opening is fantastic. It's very, very easy to wear once again. Zingy, lively, fresh. It smells great. But Tarothi Blue smells a little bit better. That being said, this is pricier than that, to the tune of about $35 for this one. So, you know, about roughly a $15 difference between the two. Now again, maybe you find one a little bit less or a little bit more, depending on where you're shopping, but just in general, that's about how much more this is than that as of this video. Just amazing, both of these, the openings. And this one is the one that more people are familiar with. This is gonna be the more popular of the two by a little bit. So I think if you don't really care about the price difference, you just go for this one right here. But if you want the best bang for your buck, I feel like that's this one. And they're not the exact same. So if you really love that scent profile, that DNA, you can get both of them. It's gonna run you 55 bucks. Next up is Angel Share. Now, I did a video like this about a year ago. The 10 expensive niche fragrances and their alternatives. You can search it up on the channel. I featured Angel Share there, but there are even more Angel Share clones that have come out, so I'm gonna feature a couple more. Angel Share, of course, extremely popular for good reason. Man, a huge compliment puller for fall and winter time. Very sweet, boozy, gourmandy. It smells great. It's very addictive. So the two fragrances I'm gonna feature here are different than the ones from a year ago. The first one is La Fed Intoxicate. And this is a very obvious Angel Share clone. You can just take a look at it and know right away what that is. And this is from Paris Corner, actually. And then there's this one, which does not look like an Angel Share clone. It's Dumont Celerio Epic. So these are both really nice alternatives to Angel Share that have come out since I last did a video of this style. This one is a little bit more confectionery, actually. So it's got kind of like a, you know, like a powdered sugar aspect to it, which is not in Angel Share itself, but it is a very nice alternative, kind of like a twist on Angel Share, really. And this one, this is a beast. Big, big performance from this fragrance for me. It lasts a long time, projects heavily. When I first sprayed it on, it actually reminded me of Angel Share with more of a holiday spiciness to it. But actually, in the times that I've worn it since then, I don't really pick that up as much. Instead, it's like a big, warm, sweet blast of Angel Share. It still has spiciness, warm spiciness to it, but it doesn't come across in like a holiday, Christmassy kind of way anymore. Yeah, that smells freaking awesome. I had said for a while that the best alternatives to Angel Share were probably Camra, Syrah Blend, and Ariz Intense for most people. But I think this is easily better than Ariz Intense. It bumps that one down out of the top 3, and I would put this one up there with Camra and Syrah Blend. I think this is one of the absolute best Angel Share alternatives out there. And then this one gives you a bit of a twist, a different take on Angel Share. So those both really good. All right, next up is an alternative to a very pricey fragrance from Raja Parfum, Amber Oud. And the alternative is this one, Divine Oud. This is from Fragrance World. And you can tell, I mean, just looking at the presentation, that is an Amber Oud dupe. Now, I'm kind of like back and forth on the presentation. The box is actually pretty nice for this one. Again, it's duping Raja Parfum. But with this bottle, I don't know if I dig this look or if I feel like they should have gone for just something completely separate, you know, kind of like this, like where this doesn't look at all like Angel Share. Maybe they should have done that with this. Now, a lot of people are gonna see this and think it's really cool and really enjoy it, and more power to you. I'm not trying to yuck your yum whatsoever. I'm just saying, because when I look at this, it's just like, oh, yeah. It definitely looks like a cheaper Raja, doesn't it? Cheaper. But, you know, whatever. The fragrance itself, really nice, especially when you consider the fragrance that it is emulating is, again, very pricey. So this one is gonna run you about $34, $35 for a 100 ml size bottle. And Amber Oud, the Parfum edition, this is an Eau de Parfum here, but the Parfum version of Amber Oud is gonna run you $795. So this is a little bit cheaper. It's slightly more affordable, you could say. Now, this is not a one-to-one of Amber Oud, obviously. I mean, there is a bit of a difference as far as the pricing structure goes, but it does get you quite close as it can. It's not quite as effervescent as Amber Oud is going to be. Raja Parfum fragrances typically have this like zing to them, this sort of liveliness to them. This one is a little bit more heavy-handed on the sweetness. It doesn't have that same quality of aroma chemical to it, but still for the price point, it is very close. So that is your Amber Oud, that's the only one. Now an alternative to Penhaligon's Roaring Radcliffe, which is a bit of a honeyed tobacco fragrance with a gentlemanly twist to it. It's not like, you know, straight up sweet, 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 sweet. You also have in that fragrance a bit of rose, rum, cinnamon, and while it does have sweetness, as I said, tobacco, honey, it doesn't come across like an overly, you know, synthetic bomb of sweetness is what I'm trying to say. So the alternative to that is this one. Which again, just really, really letting you know, isn't it? And this is the Lionheart. This is from the Georgians line. It's from Flavia, which is actually Sterling Parfums, which is Armaf. And they actually have an entire line of the Georgians, which are just the Penhaligon's portrait collection being cloned, essentially, just like the whole thing about. And they are surprisingly extremely well done. I mean, they have gone to the point of copying the cap, the box, just about everything. So this is not at all the only good Penhaligon's alternative here. If you're interested in alternatives to any of those, just check this line out. It's pretty easy to tell what's what. I mean, from the names and again, the boxes, the caps, you can pretty quickly deduce what is a clone of what, and there you go. So I actually bought a bunch of these, and of the ones that I've tried so far, they are all extremely close. So if you like the Portraits collection, check these out. Next up, we have some alternatives to the Spirit of Dubai's Meydan. The two fragrances are this one right here, which has an interesting name. This is North Stag Hypnotic Oud Quins 15. Yes, I know, it's a lot. And this is part of Paris Corner. I've actually found their North Stag fragrances to be really good quality. And then the other alternative is this one right here, Zamaya's Alcacer. This one is a little cheaper than that one. This one mid-20s or so. And this one, if you can find it at discounters, is going to be a bit less than this, but if you can't find it discounted, you're gonna be looking at about $55 for this. Now between the two, I do think this one's better. I think that the North Stag is closer to the Spirit of Dubai that it is emulating. I think it does a darn good job, actually. It's a really wearable, high quality leather fragrance. It smells great in fall and winter time, just top-notch stuff. This one is more like a twist. You know, it's not as close to being a one-to-one as this one is. I think maybe if you're going best bang for your buck, you go this one. I think this had a little more emphasis on like the oud that's in the fragrance, but if you want one that's just the best, the highest quality, go for this one. All right, last but not least, we have a clone and alternative to Parfums de Marly's Altair. It is from Fragrance World, and it's this one, Liquid Brune. Now, as far as the fragrance itself, this is fantastic. A really, really good clone of Altair, extremely well done. Do be aware though, that my box just like evaporated with this. It looks great, like it looks really nice, presentation and everything. So I took the cellophane off, I was like, all right, let's go. Actually, let me just grab it. Here it is. So technically it's French Avenue, but French Avenue is Fragrance World. So yeah, it had cellophane on. See, it looks really nice. Good quality there. You're like, oh, right. So I took off the cellophane and this just fell right off. And then like the pieces are coming undone, like right here. It's like the glue is just completely evaporating here. But it sits inside there and looks pretty good, except for, so be aware, it's possible if yours is glued like mine was that it's coming apart. Goodbye. But ultimately it's what's on the inside that counts. And the fragrance itself, dang near spot on. This is one of those deals where the first time I sprayed it, I was like, how close can they get here? You know, I'm curious. And then you don't even have to think about it. You just do a little whiff. If you're familiar with Altair, boom, that's it. Absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. So this one right here, this is killer. Like this is to Altair as Detour Noir was to Layton. Like this is the stuff. So there we go. There are your alternatives to very expensive, popular men's niche fragrances. Again, all of these are linked in the description below. Feel free to check them out down there. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.